Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you just type in the chat box if you can? Perfect. Thank you so much. Uh, can you see the screen as well? Perfect. Let's give us 5 more minutes for people to join in. We are expecting another 300 people. So let's give it another 5 minutes and then we shall start. Okay, I think we should start now. It's 5 minutes, and people are still joining in. They'll be able to hear the recording. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Sumita, and I look after training for South Asia and Southeast Asia. Our session today is on how to publish with Oxford journals. So, what are we going to cover today? I will give you an introduction on our company and the product. We will talk about the differences between a thesis and an article, how you can turn your thesis into an article, how you can write a manuscript, the best tips that you need to write a manuscript, the different kinds of journal manuscripts that you can choose from, how to select which journal you want to write for. That's a very critical thing, how you must choose your journal. How do you upload a manuscript on the OUP platform? We will do a live demo of the article submission process. We will briefly touch upon the journal publishing cycle, and then we will talk about what is open access and the different kinds of open access that OUP offers. Does anyone have any questions? I see quite a few comments on the chat screen. Okay, will the rest of you please confirm if you can see my screen? Because there's one person who says he can see a black screen. So the rest of you, can you see my screen? Okay, then whoever is not able to see the screen, I suggest you restart your computer and come back into the session. So this is the University of Oxford. It is the oldest and largest university in the English-speaking world. And Oxford University Press is a department of the University of Oxford. And our primary objective is education. We only focus at bringing up education. We have 43 online products. We've got journals, we've got ebooks, we've got handbooks, we've got bibliographies, we've got law, medicine, art, music, dictionaries, encyclopedias, you name it, we have it. We pretty much cover everything in the education sector. The only thing, subject area where we are not great at is engineering and information technology. So this is just a little bit more about our company. We have a presence in about 51 countries, which means whichever part of the globe you are in, you will find an OUP representative there. And we publish approximately 7,000 new books and 370 journals in a year. This is what the structure of our company looks like. You have the University of Oxford, which rolls down to the delegates of the press, which further rolls down to Oxford University Press, and our chief executive is Mr. Nigel Portwood. So let's talk about journals. Who are the companies that publish journals? We have the big five who publish primarily for profit. The Elsevier, Wiley Blackwell, Taylor and Francis, Springer Nature, and Sage. Not for profit are university presses like Oxford University Press, Cambridge University Press, Yale University Press, Stanford University Press, Hong Kong University Press. So any university press, anyone else who just publishes for the sake of knowledge, generally publishes not for profit. Now, I would be lying if I said we don't make any money. We do have to make money. We do have to pay salaries. We do have to keep the flow of education going. But whatever money we do make goes back into academics. And we also have research societies. We shall talk about research societies as we proceed through the session. I see quite a few comments and a hand raised. Okay, the hand raised is gone. I am not sure whether you can join Oxford Library without being a student of it, but yes, you will have access to anything that is free and open access. Firdaus, does this make sense to you? And Abdullah, yes, you will receive a recording. I will send you a link to the recording of the session once the session is over. So why Oxford journals? We have 6 subject areas. We have no long tail, which means we don't have a lot of jazz to talk about. We have real numbers to talk about. 70% of our journals have an impact factor. The very fact, those of you who are familiar with journals will know that the way to understand whether a journal is good or bad is its impact factor. And more than 70% of our journals have an impact factor. I will talk in detail about impact factor when we move to the platform. 80% of that 70% come in the top 50% of at least one category. These are the different 6 categories that we have. And 6 journals have been ranked #1 in at least one category. So you see, we are very good in quality. And this is not data that I am talking about. This is data collated by a company called Clarivate Analytics, which does the journal citation ranking. So this is just another report which just tells you about where we are. And this is just a slide which shows you different aspects of our platform. So before I do any of this, I'd like to run you through the platform. This is the journals platform, academic.oup.com/journals. So if you write Oxford Journals in Google, this is the first one that you will get. So let's take a quick look at this site. On this platform, there are 359 journals at the moment. These are the different subject areas that we cover. On the home page, you will see there is a COVID-19 information hub. What does the COVID-19 information hub do? You know, all the research that has been happening around COVID-19 is made freely accessible to everyone. So you can read a selection of our journal articles, you can read chapters and articles from our other online resources like handbooks, bibliographies, medicine, ebooks. Anything that has been published has been made free for you. And a selection of OUP blog articles. So you can take a look at this. This is a very interesting one. So all OUP blog articles are here. You can take a look and read these. Here. So some very interesting articles are here. And if you wish to see monograph books in chapters, so you see there's a lot of information here. So read it when you have the time. Going back to the home page. Then you have a tab for frequently asked questions. So if you have any doubts, you can take a look at these. If you still don't find the answer you're looking for, I am always open to responding to your emails. Please write an email to me and I will get back to you. And then we have resources on race and diversity. Now you see, Reese, after George Floyd's death and the kind of vandalism that took place in the US, uh, it's become very important where we talk about Black Lives Matter. So all information that you need on race and diversity is also available for free. So if you're interested, you can click on this tab and read what you're interested in. Moving down on this page, you have a tab for authors. This is what you would be interested in. All the information that I will be sharing with you today is given here. They're all hyperlinked. You can sit and read and follow each of these in detail. Then we have a tab for librarians. Librarians can download their MARC records. They can request for training materials, posters, or any other information that they want. Now coming to societies. On this platform, we have 359 journals. Out of the 359 journals, 1/3 belong to OUP. The remaining 2/3 are published in conjunction with our learned societies, who are our partners. Let's take a look at who they are. God, why isn't this opening? So you can read a lot more information on this platform as well. But we partner with some very, very important learned societies like the British Council, the American Journal of Hypertension. We have the British Geriatric Society. You have the European Society of Cardiology. So you've got a lot of interesting ones here. So take a look at this. If you wish to find out a little more about us, just click on the About Us tab here, and you will get to know what we are about. I've already spoken to you about this, but just in case you want to know, here we are. The rest is all duplication of functionality. Whatever is there on the home page is here. And the fastest way you can do a search on this is a quick search. So let's do placebo. When I search for placebo, I see we have 92,688 results. It is humanly impossible for me to read those 92,000 articles. So the first thing that I would do is I would want to look at research articles. So my first filter on the left is research articles. My next filter will be newest first. I'm interested in the latest articles first. Now you see, because I've logged in with the OUP credentials, I have access to everything. If it's a green padlock, it means you have access to it. If it is an orange padlock, it means it's an open access article. And if there is a cart, a shopping cart, which means you don't have access, you need to buy it. But in my case, you will see everything is available. So now here I'm looking at placebo, and let's say I'm looking at it from medicine and health. And how about looking at critical care? I'm interested in placebo related to critical care. So you see, it's made my search much simpler. From 92,000, it's brought it down to 181 results. Now, when I see there are two important journals that have articles on this. So how about taking this? I know this journal is a good journal, so why not check this out? And here we are. Now here you can always filter which one you want. So if you don't have access to anything, if you don't have a subscription, you can always look at open access and free articles. So let's look at the first article. It was published on 23rd June 2021, which is very, very new. Here we are. Now you see this journal is published in association with this society. You remember I spoke about research societies publishing journals when I was introducing the, when I was talking about who publishes journals. So this is it. This is a research society that this journal is published in conjunction with. If you want to know about the society, just click on this. And it will take you to the home page of the society itself. If you're interested in joining in, you can always join this society. But I'm just going back. Now, here is this article that we filtered. You can download it as a PDF and read it. You have images here which you can download as a PowerPoint slide. And here, this gives you the DOI. Now, this is very important information. What is the DOI? The DOI is a static permanent reference number. Even after 20 years, it will not change. It's called the digital object identifier. Why is it so important? Now you see, science is changing every day. Every day we have newer discoveries. We have, there's so much research happening around coronavirus. Now, is it possible in this past 1.5 years, there's so much research. Is it possible for any human being to read all those researches? 20 years later, you have a sibling in the house who's going to do a project on coronavirus and its impact on economy. If you have the DOI number of the article that is relevant, you can the professor, the librarian can always share the DOI with the students. It'll help make their work a lot easier. So it's a static permanent reference number. There are images which can be downloaded as a PowerPoint slide, which you can use in your projects because it gives you the citation information as well. This is how it will show up. Let's just see how it comes up. So you see, it tells you which journal it was taken from. It gives you the DOI of this particular image and gives you the copyright information. This can be used for academic use. So this is how you would do your search on an article. Each of these articles you see are hyperlinked. There are external reading or citation information given here. So if you want to read a little more on how this thought came in, Just click on these hyperlinks and you will be able to read. My next way of searching is by searching using the subject area. So let me take medicine and health. I'm going to show you two journals side by side. Here we are. So I'm going to take this particular journal. Look at this journal. The journal here, this is the homepage of the journal. It's published in partnership with the European Society of Cardiology, and why has it taken me to an article? Yeah. On the homepage of the journal, you will see the impact factor and the ranking given. So this journal has a very high impact factor, 22.673, and it ranks second out of 138. Let me take another journal, let's say from social sciences. Let me take African Affairs. Now, you need to understand the impact factor because it's very important when you're getting your research published. Look at the impact factor here. This is 2. This is 22. Now, how is the impact factor derived? The impact factor is derived based on the number of citations. And this data is collated by Clarivate Analytics. The formula to get the impact factor is number of times an article has been cited, that means number of citations, divided by number of citable articles published. And this data is taken with a period of 2 years. So if I want the impact factor of the European Heart Journal for 2021, I will have to take the data of 2020 and 2019. So number of articles cited in 2019 and 20 divided by number of citable articles published in 2019-20. Data of 2 years. That gives you the impact factor. So this clearly means that the more the citation, the higher the impact factor. The higher the impact factor, the better the journal is. Correct? This you've understood? Now I'm going to go here. If you look here, it says it is 2. Now, would you say this is a bad journal? How will you find out? You will go to About and click on About African Affairs. And when you go here, you will see how this journal has ranked over a period of time. So do you see it has always been in a very good place? It's just recently dipped. It's come down to 5 from 2, then 4, then 5. That means this is also a good journal. But why is this 2 and that 22? Because please understand, maximum research happens in, maximum research happens in life sciences, in medicine. People don't do too much of studying around humanities or social sciences. There aren't many people. In fact, for humanities journals, you won't even get an impact factor. Mostly impact factor is given to journals where there is research happening around it. And in humanities, there's very little research happening. In social sciences, this is a good journal. If you look at the European Heart Journal and go to About the journal, See, it has had a very, very steady growth. So it was 1 and then it dipped to 2. This has grown steadily. Now I'm going back here to the home page. I showed you African Affairs under Social Studies. Now let's go to Art and Humanities. Under Art and Humanities also there is African Affairs, which means it is a multidisciplinary journal. Do you see this? However, if I took a total journals from humanities, say like French studies, there isn't much to find out about French. Whatever people had to study about French history or French studies, they've already found that out. There's nothing new to find out. So there's very little research happening around it, which is why you will find that this particular journal has no impact factor. And the impact factor is very critical for you to choose which journal you want to write for. So every time when you go to choose a journal, click on the journal and go to about the journal and see if there is an impact factor. This is the most important thing to understand in journals, the impact factor. If you find a journal that has an impact factor that comes under humanities, you will understand that it is a multidisciplinary journal. See, there's nothing here. Okay, so the impact factor has been made clear to you. Now let's look at one of these articles here. Let's look at one issue here. I can choose a little older issue. Choose one that was published in February. And let me just take I'm just taking any random article. You see, it does have the DOI here. On every article, you will find this little donut called View Metrics. It is called the Altmetrics score. What does it do? It gives you the readership analysis. It will tell you how many people have viewed it, how many people have downloaded it. If you click on See More Details, it'll give you a demographic breakdown. Just waiting for the page to load. So here, which country? Usually you'll find the countries highlighted where it is red. Let me try and show you an article which has a little higher altimetric score. Let me choose. Yeah, this is a little higher. 52 people have shared it. So there are people in the United States who've read it, parts of South America who've read it, parts of Europe, parts of Turkey, parts of Philippines, and Japan. It tells you. Now, suppose you were doing a research on malaria. It definitely, you'll have to check the readership. People here won't read about mosquitoes. They have no mosquitoes there. People here in Canada will not read about mosquitoes. So depending on your research, you will also need to check the Altmetrics score of each article. So these are the most important things that I needed to share with you. One is the DOI, the second is the impact factor, and the third is the Altmetrics score. Let's move on to an article. Now, as researchers, as academicians, you would want to get your work published in a good journal. That's the reason you're attending this session. And it is everyone's dream to get that done because it'll help you to get recognition, it'll help you to promote your research, and it'll also help you make connections with people who are in the same field, with top people who are in the same field that you're studying on. So it really helps you. So it is your dream to do it. And a journal is the best way to get published. You could write a book and nobody would read it. But a good journal, if you've got your work published, you can post it on social media, it will give you a lot of recognition. But it's not an easy job. We, however, are going to try and make it as easy as possible for you. So publishable articles need to be based on solid scholarship. When I say solid scholarship means you must have something new to say. Now, apples have been falling for thousands of years. It was Newton who picked up the apple and threw it up in the air and again saw it fall down. And he did that 2-3 times and then tried to wonder, why does this happen all the time? Now, you can't throw a coconut in the air and say, okay, I threw a coconut and it came down. So yes, this is another discovery. No, Newton discovered that many years ago. You have to have something solid, something new to give us. That if I do this, this is what happens. And it's not limited to sciences. Discovery is not limited to sciences. It is limited to social sciences. It's limited to humanities, anthropology. Why do people behave the way they do? You follow a human being's pattern. There was a very nice WhatsApp forward that came to me that if a monkey hoarded more bananas than it could eat, people would start doing a study on that monkey. But when a human being does it, we post them on the cover of Forbes. So that's very interesting because even human beings are hoarding. They're hoarding money. For a monkey, bananas are money. He doesn't understand the value of cash. But try and understand, why does this person hoard? Why does this person not like to spend? Maybe previous spending habits, genetics. Every field, there's something to go back to. And if you have something to discover or to tell us that nobody else has discovered so far, that is solid scholarship. The methodology, how you came to that decision, what are the different patterns that you followed, what are the different experiments that you did that made you come to that decision. The third most important thing is it should be well written. Simple, correct English. When I say simple, correct English, I just want you to write in past tense and in active voice. These are the 2 rules you need to remember. And the message should be clear and concise. Don't go beating around the bush. Come to the point. So what is the difference between a thesis and an article? Very simple. The most important difference between a thesis and an article is the audience. Who are the people who read your thesis? Your own professors. They know you. So if you've missed a paragraph or if you've missed a point, the professor will say, yes, I know Ahmed. He's a good boy. He must have been probably disturbed, so he missed it. And he will give you marks. Whereas in an article, your audience are the peer reviewers, and they will not be kind to you. If you've missed something, they will slash your work and send it back to you. So that's the biggest difference, is the audience. Apart from that, in a thesis, you can write as much as you want, write pages and pages and pages, you'll get marks. But in a journal article, it has to be relevant to what you're talking about. You don't need to give the history. I have a friend who's a retired professor, and every time she has to tell me about someone, she starts with, this person was studying with me when I was in this city, and he did this, and he had this academic record, and in this particular year, he had won this. Come to the point. What are you trying to tell me about this friend? I don't want to know his background. But she gives a complete background before she comes to the point. That's all right in a thesis. In a journal article, no one has the time. Your peer reviewers will cancel it. So these are actually the main two differences. And the third most important difference is that a thesis will try to see how much you know. They're trying to check your knowledge level. Article doesn't want to know how much you know. An article wants to know, what is it that you have found out? What are you adding to the research? So how can you turn your thesis into an article? Your first step would be planning. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So first plan, think, is my research really good enough? Will people be bothered to read it? Has no one else done this research? For all you know, somebody else has already published that work. So do your homework, read around. Letter or short communication. Sometimes you're probably doing a research on something and suddenly you find somebody's already published something like that. The minute it is published, you see that you have points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This person has published points 1, 2, 5, 7, 8. He's missing 3, 4, 5. So you can write a quick letter of short communication saying, hey, I love your research because even I was doing the same research. And these are, you might want to consider these points because these are what I also found out. So you can add your points. That's another way of getting credibility as a researcher. Review papers you can write on. However, in Oxford University Press, review papers are usually submitted by invitation. Excuse me. The second step is choose your journal. How will you choose your journal? The first and foremost thing you will do is find out whether that journal publishes something that you are researching on. If you are researching on knee replacement, which is related to age and aging, why would you publish it in the European Heart Journal? Unless it has something to that impacts the heartbeat. If you are publishing about child marriages, why would you publish that in African Affairs if they don't have child marriages? Child marriages were predominant in India. So you would want to look for a journal which talks about this in that particular region. So depending on that, choose your journal. Be very careful. And what else will you see? You will see the impact factor, whether it is a good journal or not. Now, the reason I asked you, I'll go back to that page again. The reason I asked you to check the evolution of the impact factor is because, let's say, for example, I run a journal and it's a beautiful, it's a useless journal. Sorry, it's a useless journal. No one reads it. I give it to the librarian for free. She doesn't bother. She throws it into the dustbin. I give it to the students. They say, not interested. No one reads it. Now, I have a friend who's a scientist. He's a Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Amartya Sen. So I go and tell him, Mr. Sen, would you write a small article for me, please, for my journal? And he writes one, and it gets published. A lot of people start citing that article written by Amartya Sen. When people start writing about it, citing from it, what happens? My impact factor goes up. Does that mean my journal is good? No, my journal is still bad. The impact factor has gone up only because of that one article, which is why it is important for you to check this to see if there is a steady growth. So choose your journal wisely, check the impact factor, and most importantly, choose only one journal at a time. Don't gamble by submitting the same article to 5 different journals. All 5 will reject it, and you will lose your credibility as a researcher. Step 3 is how you should prepare your manuscript, which has a guide for authors. I will talk about this in the second half of the session. What are the different kinds of research articles? One is the original research. I've already spoken to you about it. The second is rapid communications. I've also spoken to you about this. Review articles, we've discussed it. The fourth interesting one is case studies. If you're in law, if you're in medicine, if you're in anthropology, there are beautiful case studies that you can give. I have a very interesting case study, and this is about someone I know. I had a friend some 3-4 years ago. She had severe UTI. It was so severe that instead of passing water, she would pass out blood. She was into hospital. They would give her all those antibiotics, keep her on drip and all that. She would come back after 15 days. She'd lost a lot of weight, and she was resistant to almost all antibiotics. And the doctor would tell her that, your name should be in the World Health Record. Because how is it that a person is resistant to almost every antibiotic? Only 3 antibiotics she was accepting. Anyway, they put her on, they treated her. She came back home after 15 days. Again, she had a high temperature. Again, she had to be admitted. So this went on for about a good 6 months, in and out of hospital. But she was just, the minute the antibiotics would stop, she would collapse. Then a friend of hers said, let me take you to my general physician. And she said, okay. And this is some hole in the wall chamber in a garage. The elderly man, she went to him. He listened to her. He said, I don't want to look at your reports. Just tell me what are your problems. And she told him all her problems. And she said, I will not have another antibiotic. I will die with this, but I'm not having another antibiotic. So the doctor said, okay, what I will do is I will give you a probiotic which stops your body from infection, and I will give you cranberry tablets. That's it. Have one probiotic in the morning, one cranberry in the morning, and have one probiotic in the evening and one cranberry in the evening. Take it for a month and come to me. In 15 days, she was fine. That's a lovely case study where so many big urologists, nephrologists failed. A simple hole in the wall physician was able to treat her. She reported back to work and she was fine. And she's never had this infection again. So that's a lovely case study. So if you do have a good case study, whether it is law, whether it is anthropology, whether it is medicine, whether it is a social group message, anything. How do you find the right journal? You will check the rankings, the impact factor. I've shown you that. You will check the number of downloads, that is the Altmetrics score. You will check the dissemination of the journal, where it is read. Again, you get that from the Altmetrics score, that donut. You will check which other societies it is published in partnership with. You know, those societies are also important. They're working with big learned societies. Relevance of content and publishing ethos. I will show you where you will find this. And the review speed. So these are two things that I will be showing you after the break. It is always a good idea to choose your journal before you start writing your article. Don't make the dress and then find somebody to buy it. Find the audience first and then make the dress. How to write a manuscript? Choose a good title, a good heading, so that when people are searching for it, it comes up quickly in the search index. Use the right keywords. Abstract. Abstract is a summary of your research. Write it nicely, beautifully, putting in all the important information, but make sure it is crisp, because you're writing a summary, you're not writing the full article. The title and the abstract should be written last, as these are based on all other sections. Again, I've told you, choose the right keywords. The method should be detailed and precise, always written in past tense. Results. How did you come to this result? What were the results that you saw? If there is a diagram, explain it with a diagram. You should be able to conclude your findings of your research paper. And a solid conclusion will only help in getting your article approved. If your conclusion does not match your research, your article will be rejected. And for references, follow the journal guidelines. This is something, again, we will be discussing after the break. This is an example of the use of sticky notes, which has been taken from one of our articles from the Journal of Urban Ecology, this Art and Science of Writing a Publishable Article. You can read this article. It's a very interesting article. I will send you the link when I send you an email. And this is another example of mind mapping. Before you write, you can do all of this. So now we've written our paper. What is my next step? How to get it published. So that is what we will discuss after the break. I see a lot of messages. Yes, I have said that you will get a recording of this session. How to get invitation for review paper? Well, you have to have a name in that particular field of research to get an invitation. You can publish even by yourself. You don't have to publish only through your university. Yes, you can write about human behavior or medicine. Even if you're an engineering graduate, I'm not sure about that. I'll have to find that out. The impact factor, the difference between impact factor and quartile ranking. See, uh, the ranking is based on number of journals published by all other journals, and the impact factor is based on the number of citations. So, like the European Society of Cardiology ranks number 5 because its impact factor is 22. There might be another journal whose impact factor in the same field whose impact factor is 26. That journal's ranking might be number 2 or number 1. So that's how it is linked. Anyway, let's take a little break now, and then we will discuss questions later again. It is, what is the time now in Malaysia? It's about 12 o'clock, right? 3 minutes to 12, am I right? Okay, so I will see you at 12:10. I'll see you in another 10 minutes from now. Welcome back. I hope all of you are back. Perfect. Let's just get started. So now that you've written your paper, your next step is to submit your article. Now, if you look here, this is the overview of the publishing process. The first is preparation, and preparation actually takes the maximum amount of time. The rest is easy. Preparing, getting all your things in place is what takes maximum time. After which we move on to the submission process. Then it moves to the production process where you have nothing to do. It is Oxford who's doing it. Publication, again, you have nothing to do. And promotion is how you promote your work amongst your peers. That's your take. So I will go back to the platform here. So let's take a look at this journal. I'm going to show you two journals simultaneously. Here we are. Every journal homepage will look like this. It will have issues, it will have more content. You can choose an older issue. You can look at more content, advanced articles, guidelines, whatever. It shows you which society it's published in conjunction with. And it will always have a submit tab. This is what you are going to be interested in now. When you come to the submit tab, each journal will have its own set of author guidelines. You remember I said you need to check the scope of the journal? This is where you will find the scope of the journal. The scope of the journal will tell you what kind of material it will accept. You can't talk about knee replacement in cardiovascular medicine unless it has something to do with the heart. Or you can't talk about, say, malaria if it is not impacting the heart. You can't publish it here. So you have to check the scope of the journal. You have to check the publishing ethics. Very important. Under the guidelines for authors, how do you prepare? How many words? All that information is given here. These are the different articles that you can publish. So this is something you will need to read by heart. You will need to understand this before you start writing your article. Now coming to brain. Even this has the same thing. It has author guidelines here. Now here, see, they're saying that they want you to use their manuscript tables. What are the different kinds of manuscript categories that they accept? Everything is given here. It gives you the processing time, how much time it takes to process your article. What kind of formatting, what is the font that you need, what kind of spacing you need. All of that is given here. So this is something you really need to read very, very carefully. See, if you're using a case report, you have to have the patient's consent that you're publishing his case study. So these are just two examples of what I'm showing you. Every journal will have a submit tab. Let's look at another journal. Let's look at one from Arts and Humanities. Let's choose something different. Let's choose Mind. Mind is another very well-known journal. So you see, this journal is published in conjunction with the Mind Association. This is a research society. And there is a submit tab here as well. Everywhere you will have this. The other thing that you need to look out for is go to the About section and check the editorial board. Why we ask you to check the editorial board is so that you can find anyone in your field of research, whether they are there or not. Whether he's been your professor, do you read his work? Do you find his work interesting? Check the editorial board. So now we'll move on to actually submitting our article. So we'll go to the submission site. Now, this is the only journal which allowed me to proceed without logging in with an ORCID ID. Otherwise, all other journals, which is why I can't show you any other journal, because all other journals require that I have an ORCID ID. We will talk about ORCID ID as we proceed. So here you have to create an account. If you have an ORCID ID, you can log in directly with an ORCID ID. So I've created a username password similar to how you create one in Amazon, and I've logged in. Here I get a user guide and FAQs. You can download this and keep it because this will be useful to you. Then you have the author tab here. Go to the author tab and start a new submission. Begin submission. What kind of work am I submitting? Let's say I'm submitting a clinical trial. What is the title? I've just given it any random title. Type out or paste your abstract, save and continue. Now see here, it tells you reference must be listed in AMA 11 style. It is giving you these rules. So each one will have different rules. So you can upload all your documents, images, whatever you need to update. You can do all of that and save and continue. When you don't do it, it gives you an error message. I'm still moving on to the next step. What is my methodology? This is my methodology. What am I taking? I'm taking this. I'm taking this, adding it. I'm taking epitome. I'm just randomly adding. So I have added those five. Save and continue. So you just follow what they ask you to do. Here is where you will not be able to proceed because they will ask you to create an ORCID ID. What is an ORCID ID? Now, let's say my name is Jane Smith. I live in India. There is a Jane Smith who lives in Malaysia. There's a Jane Smith who lives in Indonesia. There's a Jane Smith who lives in Philippines. A Jane Smith who lives in uh, Spain, a Jane Smith who lives in Canada, a Jane Smith who lives in New York, a Jane Smith who lives in England, a Jane Smith who lives in Ecuador. So many, 200 Jane Smiths. How will you distinguish that you are the Jane Smith? Anybody in this world of cheating, it is very easy for you to take somebody else's name and say, this is my work. But in the research world, you can bullshit to your friends, but in the research world, you will need to prove that it was your work. So you have to have an open researcher and contributor ID. Here is where either you will have to create one or you will have to associate your existing ORCID ID. If there are other authors who have worked with you, add their names, check, save and continue. You remember I asked you to check the content, the editorial board? So you can add reviewers, editors to your work. Who are the people you want to review? Remember, it remains confidential. Neither will you know who's reviewing your work, nor will the reviewer know whose work it is he is reviewing. It is blind review, but we still give you the option of adding a referee. So add the names of anyone you think will be interested in reading your work or reviewing your work. But there's no guarantee that it will go there. So I've not done this. Save and go to next step. Here is where you will write a cover letter. Please remember, you will not get a second chance to make a good first impression. Your cover letter introduces you. So make sure it is written well in simple, correct English with the correct punctuation mark. Take help from people if you're not sure. If there is a funding, yes, then you'll have to name the funders. If it is no, click on no. Has it been rejected from any other publication? No, it's a fresh one. If yes, you'll have to give reasons. You need to enter the summary. You'll have to give the number of words, just number of figures, maybe 4. So you just keep answering these questions. Just follow the instructions. I'm just doing it on my own. And save and continue. Now, it is not allowing me to do anything because it is saying that I've not completed these steps. Now is my final stage to correct everything that I have not completed. Till I don't correct, the submit will be grayed out. I will not be allowed to submit my work. So let us assume I've submitted my work. What happens next? So this is just a repeat. We've done this preparation. All this I have already explained to you. I'm not wasting time on this. So I've told you, you need to consult the journal's website for guidance on all of this, how many words, how style and formatting. You'll have to check the copyright and permission guidelines. Again, it's there in the author guidelines. I've already told you, make sure your manuscript is written in clear, simple English. Active voice, past tense. Two things you must remember. We do not provide any in-house language editing services. But there are quite a few commercial for-profit companies that do this service. But OUP does not endorse or take responsibility for this service. So you cannot go around and say, oh, the trainer told me to use this. I listened to her. Now, why are you rejecting? No, we take no responsibility. We are just suggesting that you can use a professional service if English is not your first language. These are some very interesting ones that you can look at. I follow Enago, Editage, and Edance on LinkedIn. I find them very useful. So you can try looking at them, look at their websites at least. Then we come to preparation. Now you will need to check from the journal's website in the author guidelines whether a latte template is available or not. Now, what is a latte template? It is very simple, it will automatically read the style. Suppose it says Times Roman 12, double spacing, um, whatever. So it will automatically read that, and when you're typing your research, it'll automatically read that format. So it helps you save a lot of time. Otherwise, what do you do? Every time you have to keep going back, correcting the font size, correcting the space. It stops you from all the hazards of doing all of that. I'm not going into this funding and all that. Now, you see, when we were doing our submission, you see, it automatically took us to Scholar 1. Scholar 1 or editorial manager, excuse me, are the two styles that OUP journals use. So the journal's website will provide you the direct link to submit your article. I've shown you that. When you have to submit, it asks you to create an account or link it with your ORCID ID. We've already discussed this. Are we doing all of this? I've shown you all this, so I'm just skipping this. Reviewers, you can choose your reviewers. What is peer review? In this world of cheating, if there was no peer review, anybody and everybody would copy somebody else's work and say it's mine. Quickly take credit for it. Which is why now even on Facebook, people put a hashtag and say a WhatsApp forward, because we don't know who it's come from. So peer review is actually an academic term for quality control. It tells you whether the research is valid, significant, and original. And if there was no peer review, God help us, there would be no control. Anybody and everybody would be saying, this is my work, and there would be a war of intelligence. Bad enough that we have enough wars, we don't want another one. This is how the peer review process works. You have an idea, you do your research, and you write it out. When you write it out, it's called a manuscript. Till it is not published, it's in the manuscript form. Then you send it to the journal editor, which means you're submitting your article. The journal editor sends it to 3 to 5 experts in the field, and a decision is made to accept, revise, or reject. So if you get the pencil mark, they ask you to make changes. If you get a red cross, I'm sorry, your article has been refused. And if it is a green, good to go. After peer review, your article has been accepted. What happens next? It goes on to our production team. And what does our production team do? It will create a 6-digit unique ID, which is the DOI. So your article will also have a DOI. Now, do you understand why I explained DOI? Because your article will get this 6-character unique ID. And then the production team will send you a link to the author services site. To go to that author services site, you will need to create a fresh account. The account that you created when you were submitting your article will not work here. You will have to create an account again. Of course, you can use the same email and the same password, but you will have to create an account again, and you will have to sign a license to publish. If you do not sign the license to publish, you will not be, we cannot proceed with the publication. If you have to pay any publication fees, there are sometimes authors who request for color images. So all the cost and all of that is given in the author's site. You can check and read that. And with that ID, you can also track the progress of your manuscript. After which, it is a production team that does all this proofing. It will make changes. It will see that there's consistency of the text. It will do all their work. And finally, when they have done their proofing, they will send it back to you. If you think something is incorrect or amiss, you must make your voice heard then. After it is published, we will not accept any requests from you. Unless, of course, there's only one clause, that it is impacting the academic accuracy of your work. Apart from that, no proof requests will be accepted. So this is the time where you will need to give it. After it is published, the author will be sent a free access link to the online version of their paper. So right now, only the author will get it. If you have co-authors and colleagues and you want to share it with them, you can share it on your personal institutional web page. Once the article is with OUP, the content of the embargo the content of the paper is embargoed. Embargoed means from the time it goes to publication till the time it is open to the audience. During that time, you should not be discussing the content. You should not be publicizing it on Facebook, saying, wait for my work, or in LinkedIn, anywhere else, before the official publication date. When it is published officially, you can say that here is my article. If authors have embargoes on papers, the production team will try and accommodate this in the publication process. Now, sometimes, authors believe in Vastu and they want a particular time where the work should be published. In that case, you must mention the time zone, which country, GMT +8 or GMT, Malaysia is GMT +8. So mention the time zone, the exact date and time that you want your paper to be published. I've already explained all of this. We usually don't charge anything to the author for publishing our work. You can check the author's website and see what are the different rules. If you go to the authors section, because there's a lot of information which I couldn't post here, you can go and read information. Now they keep changing it, so I can't keep putting it on the slide and changing it there. But if you go to the author's site, it will tell you how you can actually follow the rules for publishing in social media. 1 second. I'm just going to the Oxford main page. And when you come to the main page, you go to the authors tab here. So here is where you can check how you can do search engine optimization, social media, how you can promote your article and all of this. Article level metrics, that's the Altmetrics score. All of that you can check. Then we move on to our last topic of the day, which is open access. What is open access? Sometimes an author discovers something very great and he thinks he needs to make it open to the audience. Now, let's say I've discovered a pill. The minute I take it, it gives me immunity against COVID. I will not get COVID, no matter what I do. I've discovered this pill. I want it to be open to the audience. So I want it to be free. Now, we are not Wikipedia, where anyone can write anything. Here, for open access, if you want your work to be open access, the author has to pay OUP. That does not mean that the author is paying OUP, so you can write Jack and Jill went up the hill and we will publish it. It will still go through the rigorous process of peer review. We will check for authenticity, we will check for academic accuracy, we will check for plagiarism before we publish it, because it still comes under the OUP umbrella. So that is open access. We have different open access options. You can take a look at them here, or you can take a look at them here. You can go here and check open access from here. So these are the different ones that we have, which brings us to the end of today's session. My email address is sumita.sen@oup.com. If you have any questions, please feel free to write to me. After this session, you will receive an email from me with a questionnaire, a link to a questionnaire. If you score 70% and above, you will be eligible for a certificate of completion. I will also send you the link to that article on how to write a publishable article, plus a link to the recording of today's session. 3 months later, maybe sometime in September, October, or maybe November, I will send you an email with a session on our policies, funding policies, licensing agreements and funding policies. So if you're interested, you can sign up for that session. But that session is eligible for only those who clear the assessment. So that brings me to the end of the session. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Publication is not becoming a business because, at least in OUP, because OUP is not a commercial publisher. No, there are no hidden costs. Whatever is there on the paper. You can check the rules there. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you. Have a great day.